A very good afternoon. I would like to wish the Executive Director for the ASEAN Centre for Energy, Dr. Nuki Agya Utama, as well as the Deputy Regional Director for the United Nations Environment Programme, Ms. Isabel Luis, honored guests, as well as everyone present here in this Zoom room today. My name is Ryan, and I'll be the MC for today's auspicious event on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. And I do hope that everyone is staying safe and is in the pink of health here today. Before we do begin our event, however, I would like to make a very quick announcement. For all the participants present here today, Should you have any views, comments, interesting insights, or questions that you would like to ask throughout this session, do kindly feel free to use the Q&A messaging option that is located on the bottom right of the Zoom platform. I would like to repeat that should you have any comments, questions, or insightful views that you'd like to share with everyone here today, feel free to use the Q&A option that is located on the bottom right-hand side of the Zoom platform. So thank you everyone in advance for your cooperation. And without further ado, we will now begin our event. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to formally welcome you to the ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap launching event once more. This event represents a mutual handshake between two influential organizations here, the ASEAN Centre for Energy, as well as the United Nations Environment Programme. And both of these organizations actually have the goal of incorporating a gender-responsive policy in renewable energy development efforts in the ASEAN region. For everyone's benefit, do allow me to provide everyone with a very brief context to our event here today. The ASEAN Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap was actually developed from the 39th ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting in an effort to actually implement something called inclusiveness and just energy development. Now, what does that actually mean? As we all know, recognizing gender equality is actually a human right, and a society that values the importance of viewing men and women as equals can actually be a society that holds the potential to be safer and healthier. Inclusiveness doesn't just mean having a workplace that has different genders, but is rather defined as establishing an empowered platform in which people from all backgrounds can feel welcome and valued. This important aspect will factor into our discussion here today in setting up a healthy energy development effort, and can bring about some very important benefits in which I am very, very excited to learn more about in the upcoming sections. But before we really get going with today's event, I would first like to invite the Executive Director of the ASEAN Centre for Energy, Dr. Nuki Agia Utama, to say a few words of welcome to our audience here today. Dr. Nuki, the stage is yours.
And focal points for joining us today, despite your busy time. Distinguished speakers, the Director Amelia Guzman, good afternoon, Madam. Miss Chuzana Han, also Dr. Parimita Mohanty, good afternoon. As colleagues and participants, and also our partner, the United Nations Environmental Programme and Empower Project, represented by Isabel Luis. Good afternoon. On behalf of the ASEAN Centre for Energy, I'm honored to welcome all participants to the launching event of the ASEAN Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap, a roadmap on accelerating ASEAN renewable energy deployment through greater responsive energy policy. Besides working on the technological improvement, ASEAN is now working towards a more just and inclusive energy transition. As agreed on the 39th joint ministerial statement during last ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting. Through the ASEAN Energy Blueprint, the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, or in short we call it APAC, the region has set a target to achieve 23% and 35% of renewable energy share in total primary energy supply and installed power capacity both in 2025 respectively. The 6th ASEAN Energy Outlook projection shows that renewable energy will continuously grow in line with economic growth. It was also portrayed through the ASEAN Power Updates 2021 that the capacity addition for renewable accounted for 82% in 2020, which was unprecedented. However, gaps in achieving renewable supply need to be accelerated to achieve the aspirational target, which is we only have a couple of years left, up until 2025. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, several studies on renewable and women participation indicated that there will be improved responsiveness to the needs of the people at the household and community level. Due to women's there was some technical problem before. Apologize. Ladies and gentlemen, several studies on renewable and women participation indicated that there will be improved responsiveness to the needs of the people at the household and community level. Due to women's sound knowledge of local resources and sustainable resources management practices in their role as energy managers. Therefore, to realize both the regional target and shared vision of inclusive energy transition, ACE teamed up with UNEP to develop a roadmap for the ASEAN government or policymakers. This roadmap charted a pathway to accelerate renewable energy development in the region through an attempt to incorporate a gender-responsive policy. After the study and months of development, hereby officially the launch of the ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap. This roadmap marks the first social approach roadmap produced by the ASEAN Centre for Energy. It corresponds to the dynamic of the energy sectors and explore untapped potential to accelerate renewables. We hope this roadmap will provide feasible action plan and strategic steps needed for regional and respective ASEAN member state level to have an inclusive and productive policy while ensuring environmental sustainability of the energy sector. By formulating a way forward and pathway for regional to increase its human resources and its institutional capability, step by step to incorporate gender in renewable energy policy. This roadmap is essential for the ASEAN energy sector to walk a great statement towards an inclusive energy transition. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as the intergovernmental institution on energy in Southeast Asia, ACE stands ready to support the ASEAN member states on this implementation. In addition, as mandated by the API, we are planning to develop the ASEAN RE long-term roadmap. We hope this RE gender roadmap could also serve guidance for the long-term pathway. The roadmap also informs us of the potential collaboration needed for any dialogue partners and also international organizations in the coming years, or even inspire the new phase of API after 2025. ACE is also looking forward to any discussion to kickstart and implement this roadmap. I also would like to thank our distinguished speakers for their time and efforts to reiterate the rationale for the importance of gender in renewable energy sectors. Once again, would like to thank to ACE colleagues, UNEP, and Empower Project for supporting this roadmap development, and of course our distinguished speakers for their excellent preparation, and colleagues from ASEAN Focal Point. And I wish you a good health and a productive day. Thank you very much. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nuki, for your very kind and warm words of welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, like what Dr. Nuki has emphasized earlier, there are a few important renewable energy milestones that the ASEAN region aims to achieve within the next decade. And these renewable energy development milestones will bring about fundamental impacts to the local communities in each ASEAN country. However, it also should be highlighted that the correct practices should be put in place when working to achieve these milestones, and having the proper inclusiveness movements that are detailed in the ASEAN Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap represents a huge step in helping to achieve this target. Now, moving on, I would also like to invite the Deputy Regional Director for the United Nations Environment Programme, Ms. Isabel Luis, to also mention a few words of welcome to our beloved audience here in this Zoom room today. Please welcome Ms. Isabel.
Thank you very much. And can I confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Ms. Isabel.
Very good. Okay, good afternoon. Swadikam. I'm here on behalf of the Regional Office of the United Nations Environment Programme based in Bangkok. And it's a pleasure to join you for the launch of the roadmap on accelerating ASEAN renewable energy deployment to gender responsive energy policies. I would like to extend my greetings, Dr. Nuki, and good to see you again, and the ASEAN Centre for Energy, ACE, our partner in this endeavour, and all the distinguished guests present. Let me echo Dr. Nuki and welcome you all to this afternoon's launch of the roadmap. For many years now, the ASEAN Centre for Energy and UNEP have been working together on developing tools, standards, and a labelling program to promote energy efficiency, organizing joint trainings and capacity building events, as well as raising capacity and ensuring gender perspectives are included in key renewable energy outlooks in the ASEAN region. This work has contributed to ASEAN's decarbonization agenda, and in particular, the clean energy transition, which was again strongly emphasized in the 55th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting held earlier this month in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. The AAMM also reaffirmed ASEAN's commitment to gender equality and ensuring meaningful participation of women and girls in the region's political, economic, and social development. It also starts to focus on the triple planetary crisis that's looking at the issues of climate action, nature action, and pollution action. Today, we are proud to present another major milestone of this collaboration towards gender-responsive renewable energy policies and programs in ASEAN that are critical for solutions for climate action. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC working group, the third working group report on mitigation, released earlier this year, made it abundantly clear once again that only immediate, ambitious climate action will keep global warming within 1.5 degrees. While the report paints a big picture, it also offers a wealth of solutions, among which renewable energy is cited as a cost-effective solution to limit global warming. In the context of the energy transition that is key to solving the climate change, the roadmap we are launching today can play a key role. For the energy transition to be good, it needs to be placing human rights and gender equality at its core. While being crucial for climate change mitigation, the energy transition also offers opportunities for the resilience and economic empowerment of women, who are among those most likely to suffer disproportionately from the negative effects of climate change. Therefore, it is crucial that gender perspectives are included in climate change, environmental, and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. Many countries in South and Southeast Asia are currently in discussions on phasing down and phasing out coal, and the issue of job losses is often raised. But research and assessments inform us that for every job lost due to fossil fuel phase-out, 4 to 5 jobs can be created through the clean energy transition. So this also provides an important entry point for policy and decision makers to take advantage of this opportunity to economically empower women. Under the Empower Women for Climate Resilient Societies project, UNEP is supporting women entrepreneurs in accessing renewable energy technology and financing for climate resilient livelihoods. And we have expanded on the learnings, methodologies, and tools to knowledge sharing with policymakers, financial institutions, and technology providers in the region. So this work with the ASEAN Centre for Energy builds on our strong cooperation with the governments of Cambodia and Vietnam in particular. In Vietnam, 3 provincial action plans on women's entrepreneurship and renewable energy have been adopted. And in Cambodia, 2 communities and provincial action plans include women's economic empowerment. So we would like to thank Cambodia and Vietnam for these commitments to advance gender equality in renewable energy. So we look forward to continue to work closely with the ASEAN Centre for Energy and the ASEAN member states on the uptake of the roadmap by the ASEAN countries. We commend our ASEAN partners on streamlining the efforts and incorporating the issues into the phase 2 of the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation. We're also very pleased to hear that this roadmap will inform the long-term ASEAN Renewable Energy Roadmap and also further strengthen and enhance the ASEAN-UN partnership. Finally, let me extend my gratitude to our partners, UN Women and the Government of Sweden, who are with us on this empowered journey for climate resilience. Let me also once again thank the ASEAN Centre for Energy, especially to Dr. Nuki and colleagues, as we continue to work together to increase gender responsive policy and its implementation in the energy transition. Thank you all of us for joining us. Kapun Ka.
Thank you so much, Ms. Isabel, for your encouraging words of support, both towards this event as well as toward this collaboration effort between your organization as well as the ASEAN Centre for Energy. I do hope that the commitments in achieving gender equality in development efforts in ASEAN countries, as highlighted earlier, in countries such as Cambodia, can serve as an inspiration for the years to come for other countries as well. Now, before we move on with our agenda here today, I would like to invite all speakers as well as panelists present to kindly switch on your cameras as we'll be taking a very quick group photo. Now let us all just have about 30 seconds for us to get ready, to adjust the camera angle a little bit, and on my cue, we can have a group photo. All right. So I would like to invite everyone to turn on the cameras for all the panelists. Okay, let's style hair, get everyone ready in front of the camera. And let us now flash our brightest smiles as Miss Dia will be helping us to take the screenshot. All right, 1, 2, 3, smile everybody. All right. Okay, I think we've got it. Thank you so much for your warmth, for your very, very warm smiles, everybody. Everyone is looking very good today. Now we will be moving on to the led-up agenda for today, which will be a short panel engagement session regarding the rationale behind gender inclusion and renewable energy within the ASEAN region. Ooh, that sounds very interesting. There are a few experts here today joining us who are very keen to offer their valuable insight as well as opinions on the topics which I have introduced earlier. So everyone be sure to stay tuned in for this session. This session is chaired by Ms. Ngoc Giang Vu from the ASEAN Centre for Energy. Ms. Giang, I will now pass on this session to you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So before beginning our sections today, I would like to check if my voice is clear enough.
Yeah, crystal clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zhang, and I am the Associate Officer Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Department of ACE. And today it's really my pleasure to be here to be the moderator of this panel sections. Joining me today, there are three very talented panelists. So the first one I will introduce is Dr. Parimita Mohanty, Renewable Energy Program Officers from United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. And the second panelist is Ms. Kusana Han, the Assistant Director of Poverty Eradications and Gender Divisions from ASEAN Secretariat. And the third panelist is Ms. Amelia MD Guzman, the Vice Chairperson in Department of Energy and Gender and Development Technical Working Group from the Philippines. So before we move on to the next section, to the discussions, I would like to remind all the panelists that since we only have 30 minutes for these sections, so each of you will have around 7 to 8 minutes to present. And in case you have any presentations that you have prepared to deliver your answers, please feel free to share it to all the audience. And yes, once again, I would like to remind all of you to be mindful about the time. Thank you so much for your cooperations. So without any further ado, I will kick off our panel discussions today. So I would like to invite Dr. Paritima Mohanty to provide some of her perspective on the global insight on gender and renewable energy. So, Dr. Parimita, so from your perspective, what is the importance of incorporate gender in renewable energy development in ASEAN?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. And it's our privilege to be here in this important event and this roadmap launching. And it's our pleasure to partner with the ASEAN Centre for Energy and coming out with this very important document in terms of roadmap for mainstreaming gender in renewable energy. So if we see the rationale of mainstreaming gender in renewable energy, and if I just take you back maybe after before 5 years, then there are several reports, global reports, either from IRENA or from IEA or by international organizations who have brought the disparity that exists between the participation of men and women in the energy sector. And whenever there is some participation from the women groups, they basically are considered as the part of the energy consumer. So they generally don't have any kind of rights to take action and take in the decision-making process. So lots of evidence that exists which talks about how women are not being involved in the decision-making process and in the management of the energy projects, energy design and implementation things, not only in ASEAN, but globally. That triggers lots of interactions and conversations amongst various international groups to see how can we bring, how can we involve, and how can we trigger women's participations in renewable energy, and for that matter, in the overall energy sector. That's where all those discussions started. And if we see the global landscape of women's participations in energy sector, now there are several sub-regional programs, initiatives talking about women's participations in energy sector. And one of the very good examples, which was started in 2015 or 2017, was actually from the West African region, when the ECOWAS program on gender mainstreaming energy access was started. And it was basically a policy that has been created. And the whole purpose of the ECOWAS policy for gender mainstreaming is to provide policymakers with instrumental and human rights-based indicators and create one argument on how important it is to align energy interventions with principles of gender equality. So that's where the African region has started the policies, programs, initiatives, and lots of funding has been created, which are basically women enterprise funds, women promotions funds in energy sector. And then slowly, of course, MENA region has also started with the regional initiatives on women participations in energy sector with almost similar initiatives and objectives. And recently, after Vienna's Energy Forum in 2011, as you know, UN has come out with a number of global compacts. And one of the global compacts is on gender and energy. So UNIDO, Energia, GWNet, supported by several governments like Government of Canada, UK, Iceland, Kenya, Nepal, and Sweden, they formulated a coalition to develop gender and energy compact. And we at UNEP has also participated in number of discussions and developed the principles for this gender and energy compact and how the women's participations can be facilitated further in the energy sector. And this coalition brings together government, private sector, academia, civil societies, youth and international organizations, all under the same overall objective to promote a just and inclusive and gender responsive energy transitions. So there are a number of initiatives, regional initiatives exist globally, and we are really glad, and it's our privilege, it's our pleasure to have an ASEAN roadmap now for mainstreaming gender in energy policies. What does it mean? It means our region is also focusing, is also strengthening much more on bringing gender equality in the energy value chain completely. And it also facilitates lots of networking options, knowledge sharing and capacity building amongst different regional, sub-regional networks and trigger and strengthen this whole objective of bringing gender equality in energy sector and creating overall sustainable development and leaving no one behind objective and fulfill that. So that's something and we are really glad that through our Empower project, we are able to create lots of interactions, networking, and Isabel has already mentioned about the women economic empowerment things, what we are trying through the renewable energy component. So that will also create a kind of evidence on how mainstreaming in the energy sector through women's economic empowerment is happening. And we can create number of role models through Empower and similar projects and initiatives with ACE in future, and we can create a global platform and global community supporting and promoting gender equality in energy sector. So that's the insight what we can think of and the way forward through this roadmap development. So with this, I would stop here. I think I am within my time of 7 minutes. I'll stop here.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. For a very, very inspiring speech. So yeah, I quite agree with you about the representations of women in renewable energy and energy sector. To this day, the representations of women is still like limited compared to men. And the questions of like how to encourage more women to become the decision maker in the energy sectors is become crucial than ever, because yeah, we are also the one who can like make positive influences towards the inclusive and just energy transitions. And I do hope that with the establishment of the Gender Roadmap in ASEAN, this can be a stepping stone for many other ASEAN member states to be more aggressive in terms of like publishing the initiatives or policies, more concrete policies in order to promote gender equalities in gender equality in the energy sector. So really appreciate your answers, Dr. Varitima. And then next, I think we will move on to the second panelist today, which is who is Ms. Susanna from ASEAN Secretariat, to provide her insights about the ASEAN framework on gender and the future plans in the regions. So, Ms. Susanna, are you here?
Yes, did you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for you. So with the launching of our ASEAN Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap, do you think it is aligned with the ASEAN framework on gender? And what do you think about the way forward for the gender in energy?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Kimbu. This is a very good question. I would like to answer this question after I present to the panel and also to the participant to introduce the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Strategic Framework. And then I can go deeper into your question on how we can align the ASEAN Gender Roadmap with the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Strategic Framework. Yes. So thank you very much. And I would like to introduce myself that I am Susanna Han. I am the Assistant Director of the Poverty Eradication and Gender Division at the ASEAN Secretariat. I would like to introduce the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Strategic Framework, that how we can bring this pioneering this is the pioneering initiative in ASEAN to mainstream and to bring the gender integration as a whole of the ASEAN approach on gender mainstreaming. So next slide, please. For ASEAN commitment in terms of advancing the gender equality and empowerment of women has not been only start today, but the declaration and also the commitment has been raised in so far in ASEAN. For example, the declaration on the gender responsive, the implementation of ASEAN Community Vision 2025, and also this is a complementarity between the ASEAN Vision 2025 and the Sustainable Development Goal. And in terms of the economic empowerment, that how we can build up the economic status and how we can eradicate the poverty eradication to the women empowerment, that has been drawn into attention of the action agenda on the women economic empowerment. And also after that, in 2017, ASEAN have the joint statement on the women, peace and security. When we talk about the women, peace and security, that is not only bring into the context of the traditional conflict, but also we look into that how we can promote the livelihood of the women during the post-conflict and also in the prevention and the conflict mitigation. So we include the time during the normal time without the conflict. So this is the extend the context of the women, peace and security into resilience and onto the livelihood development that could bring in the issue of the gender integration. And also ASEAN, we have the ASEAN Declaration on the role of the civil service, that how the government civil service across the ASEAN member state could catalyze the gender mainstreaming. So next slide, please. I would like to bring an attention that the idea to integrate the gender mainstreaming across the three community pillars of ASEAN, that is economic, social, cultural, and political, has been drawn this in since 2017 and 2018 in Philippines, when the Senior Official Conference on Gender Mainstreaming has been set up. And at that time, we thought that the ACWC, or the ASEAN Committee to Promoting the Right of Women and Children, and also the ASEAN Committee to Promote the Rights of the Women, will lead the process to develop the ASEAN guideline on gender mainstreaming. So next slide, please. At that time, there would not be only the starting from the 0 point, but in ASEAN, when we work with the, we call ASEAN sectoral bodies, who are the official level work in the ministry, in the line ministry, responsible on the development, economic development, social development, and political issue development. At that time, there are a lot of effort to bring the gender mainstreaming into the forefront. For example, to mainstream gender into the food and agriculture issue, to bring the gender mainstreaming into the labor and employment, and bring the gender issue into the disaster risk reduction, and the rural poverty eradication, and also the environmental sector. But you can see that this is very work in silo, which is not the comprehensive approach. Next slide, please. So in 2018 and 2019, the ASEAN sectoral bodies and also the 10 member states of ASEAN has been initiative the development of the ASEAN gender mainstreaming strategic framework that provide the groundwork or development of the 4-year implementation plan that will recognize the ASEAN as a whole approach, that how we can integrate the gender mainstreaming into the program work as a cross-cutting issue across the 10 member states and also across the 3 community pillars of ASEAN. So this is the first time that we will look into the whole process of the gender mainstreaming. When I talk about gender equality and social inclusion as an integral part, so for sure, this is not the additional part, because most often we found that when the development program work on gender, the report or the submission of the monitoring will add gender like the one paragraph, how we promote the participation of women and men, or how we can have the number of the gender balance. So that is not we call integration, but that is additional part. So how we can integrate the gender issue, the recognition of the gender or the difference of women and men in terms of the work, in terms of the responsibility, benefit, and access to the opportunity and resource, how it different between women and men throughout the process of the development work, from the proposal design that based on the disparities planning, how the objective of the program concern of the narrowing the gender development gaps, how the implementation concern on the impact and unintended impact that will exist as a result of the program implementation. So this is the thing that when I talk about integral part, so ASEAN have ambition that how the gender issue become the integral part of the development initiative. So next slide, please. So we think that we need to build a common understanding, commitment, capacity, and also build the capacity of the gender specialists to provide the technical input and work with the implementation team and build up the meaningful action and monitoring the progress. I would like to give an example of the case, particularly on the renewable energy in ASEAN country, with the report of the monitoring progress that we have in a project in one country that work on the renewable energy project. They promote the electricity and non-off-grid electricity to the remote area in the rural area of the one country in ASEAN. And at night time, women have more time because they can extend their work from daytime to the night time. So women bring their safe time that they could finish from the agricultural activity to do the weaving at night time. So they can extend their work after they finish their work. But it is found that the fabric that women has been complete the weaving can be sold about 1 million rupiah or about almost $100 if they bring to sell in the market. But the one who bring that fabric to sell in the market is not the women, so are their partner. So, but the benefit has not been drawn into the pocket money pocket of the women. So this is very simple example that I would like to give us to see that how the gender equality is very important for the achievement of the development program, and particularly in the energy sector, which is very technical. But actually the achievement of the program and achievement of the initiative has very much rely on the gender concern of the implement practitioner, particularly at the field, and also the gender specialists who provide the technical support to the project. So next slide, please. So in ASEAN, we would like to clearly articulate this kind of the gender mainstreaming approach, that how we can bring in the gender analysis into every step of work. When I mention about gender analysis, it means that to analyze the difference between women and men, particularly during the implementation. Some unintentional impact can be happen, like the example that I provide. Or I would like to give one example of that I just recognize one example on the biogas project. There we promote the biogas, so women have clean energy for cooking. So women have more time. They don't need to fetch the firewood. They don't need to clean the kitchen. So women have more saving time. So when they have clean energy for cooking, they can create more food, and we expect that the household should have the positive impact on the nutrition. But the one who decide the food on the table is not the women. So this kind of thing, even we promote the energy, we would like to bring the well-being or development of the household, but it does not come up like we expect. So this thing that we would like to bring the accountable, we would like to bring the gender analysis into the every step of the program implementation, to discuss and exchange between the implementation team, in which we would like to form as a community of practice between the country and across the 10 countries of ASEAN, and also across the 3 community pillars of ASEAN. So next slide, please. So we, as you may aware that in ASEAN, we have ASEAN vision until 2025, but we also look into how we can keep the gender mainstreaming, look forward into the ASEAN post 2025. Now ASEAN start drafting the ASEAN vision in the post 2025. So we look into that how we can change the mindset in terms of the gender development and social inclusion, particularly bring the leadership among the country, and also bring in the forum for the knowledge, dialogue, and effective interface, that we will contribute this as a kind of the forum and conversation. So next slide, please. So I would like to summarize a little bit that so the goal of the gender mainstreaming strategic framework, the goal 1, we look into the ASEAN, how we can improve the ASEAN policy as a regional policy. And the second is how to improve the knowledge and technical competency, particularly in terms of the gender analysis to the implementation team. So next slide, please. And the goal 3, we look into the how we can better reflect the needs and women and girls. As an example that I give the example of the gender analysis and the progress monitoring of the renewable energy project in ASEAN. And not only that, we also look into how we can support the intergovernmental as a dialogue on gender mainstreaming that I mentioned, for sharing and dialogue and learning from that practice, and to use the gender analysis tool and exchange between the country. So next slide, please. So this is the gender mainstreaming strategic framework. The gender mainstreaming strategic framework has a launch in this year in February, and now we roll out the implementation so in this time is during the initial step of the rolling out and its implementation. During the initial step, we focus into the how we can have the intersectoral dialogue between the sectoral body of ASEAN, between the line official ministry of ASEAN, how we can work this as a comprehensive initiative, and how we can bring in the ad hoc working group on gender mainstreaming, how the focus gender focal point in each country established, and also not only in the country, but the mechanism as the regional gender focal point of the 10 ASEAN countries will be a important mechanism to promote this gender mainstreaming as a whole of ASEAN. So next slide, please. So this is, I would like to end my presentation, and I would like to reply and answer your question that how we can bring in the synergy of this ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Strategic Framework and the ASEAN Roadmap. I quite believe that the vision or the goal of the achievement of the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming, it means that we bring in the equitable resource access and benefit to all women and men, and also the vulnerable people that we also highlight into the social inclusion. And I think that with the same vision, with the same involvement of the ASEAN sectoral body who work in across the 10 countries of ASEAN, I think that we can promote this synergy to the line ministry, and that is the good opportunity that we will have the gender focal point in every ASEAN sectoral bodies who work on agriculture, in energy, in food, in economic. So whole of the 3 community ASEAN pillar. So this is we work together with the energy sector to bring in the gender mainstreaming to be the comprehensive initiative. And this is ASEAN very much have ambitious, because this is the pioneering and first initiative that launched in this year. So thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to end my presentation here.
Well, thank you so much for very informative presentations about the ASEAN framework on gender. So I also believe that the launching of ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap is also complement what all the outcome and output and action plans that you have presented in the ASEAN framework on gender. So thank you very much for your presentations and your answer. So now, due to time constraint, I will move on to the third panelist of today's sections. Ms. Amelia M. Guzman, the Vice Chairperson from Department of Energy, Gender and Development Technical Working Group in the Philippines. So to give her perspective about the benefits and gender mainstreaming effort in DOE in the Philippines. So Ms. Amelia, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. I think your voice is quite small. Can you try like increasing? Yeah.
Is it better now? Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you so much. So I think before you, I think you have presentations to yeah. So so before you begin, I think I would like to give you the questions first, and then after you present, you can answer. Is that okay for you?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So so Ms. Amelia, I would like to ask about how the Philippines work on the energy and gender mainstreaming efforts, and what are the lessons learned, the success story that the Philippines could share to inspire other ASEAN member states to do so. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much. I would like to think that the answers to your question are in my presentation, I hope. So I will address some of the questions after I make my presentation. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for inviting me to take part in this launch to share the mainstreaming objectives and efforts of the Department of Energy. Okay, to put some context on the energy mainstreaming of the Department of Energy. So I can take you back to the before I begin. My name is Amelia de Guzman. I'm a geologist by profession, and I am the vice chair of the TWG on GAD for the Department of Energy. So I will take you back to the history of the GAD mainstreaming in the Philippines. So it is enshrined in the Constitution that the state recognizes the role of women in nation building, and it would like to ensure the fundamental equality before the law of men and women. And then in 1992, a law was passed. It's called Women in Development and Nation Building Act. So this aims to integrate the women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building. And in 2009, we passed the Magna Carta of Women Law. So it mandated all government agencies, all state universities to adopt gender mainstreaming as a strategy to promote women's human rights and eliminate gender discrimination in their systems, structures, policies, programs, processes, and procedures. And then it also mandated all government agencies to establish or strengthen a gender focal point system. And since DOE has had the focal point system since 1997, so we just enhanced on our existing program like this. So these are just some of the activities that we do. So to mainstream the GAD, we have to submit an annual GAD plan and budget. This is discussed among project proponents and among directors of the Department of Energy. So this annual plan is subjected to the scrutiny of, we have a Philippine Commission on Women. So the commission reviews all the GAD plans and budget of all government departments. And at the end of the year, we have to submit the accomplishment report to see if the projects are being implemented. And we also actively participate in the GEWE, that's the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. There's a chapter there on energy. So all the energy sector representatives put our heads together to address the gender issues and maybe find solutions. And so we have a project review committee in the office where the project proposals are evaluated. So the gender focal point is there as a member to ensure that the proposals have a gender dimension. So we have a scoring scheme. And as TWG also, we have we evaluate implementers because within DOE we propose programs on gender and development, and I will talk about that a little more later. So we have in-house that project proposal. And since the Department of Energy has we have an entire energy family, so we have I think 5 attached agencies. We closely coordinate with them to evaluate also their GAD plans and projects. And of course, we monitor project implementation because it's a requirement. And lastly, we strive to attain the required 5% of total agency budget because we are required by law to spend a part of our annual budget for GAD programs. And for The DOE Gender Toolkit for Energy Sector is one proud moment when we launched it in 2016. This was done in partnership with USA Compete, because as Ms. Han said, that there's a generic GAD toolkit, but it could not quite capture the technical aspects of the energy sector. So we had to do our own. It was bloody, but we did it. And so its aim is to primarily provide the department, its internal bureaus, and the attached agencies how to make the operations and programs more aware and more gender responsive. So it is composed of 4 parts. The first part is just the DOE strategic framework. So, but what's important here is the guide checklist for energy sector, where it is ascertained if your project is gender sensitive, gender responsive, or not gender responsive at all. So we use that checklist for all our projects. And as awards, we have garnered awards from this Frederick Newman Foundation. This is an award where we had a project with the Benedictine sisters. They are nuns, but they raise hogs, and the waste they have a biodigester. So the gas is we use their gas because they have a bakery. It's a self-sustaining system for them. And another award we had is from the Girl Scouts of the Philippines, because we have a memorandum of understanding with the Girl Scouts of the Philippines, where we have educational campaigns on elementary students to introduce them to the sciences. And this is personally my project, the Girls in Science. Because why? Because we know a lot of male scientists, but we only know one female scientist, that's Marie Curie. So we try to improve on that, and we also try to address the underrepresentation of women in the sciences. So we go around the Philippines for grade 10 students and encourage them to take up careers in the sciences when they go to college. So by means of lectures and experiments in chemistry and geology, and we have done more than 50 schools. And during the pandemic, since there are no classes, for the past 2 years, we did a virtual workshop. And then we also have other projects like the efficient, the IEC on energy safety practices. The audience here is mainly the housewives, because they use the LPG, the liquid petroleum gas. And we have ENREADY. This project is for grade 5 students. And so we introduce them as young as grade 5 to the challenging and exciting jobs in the energy sector. So they will be encouraged to take up careers in the sciences. And the CREATE is a campaign on RE technology education for grade 12 students. This is a project of our Mindanao Field Office for high school students on renewable energy technology. So these are all the projects of the GAD open system. So I think I'm within my time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for your very interesting presentations. So I guess it can somehow like answers my questions earlier. So I can see that the Philippines is very serious in like enhancing women participations in the energy sectors, and specifically when talking about like the Department of Energy Gender Toolkit, it just showed that the Philippines really wants to make tangible impact to women, to encourage more women and girls to participate in some of the fields, in the fields that used to be known as a male-dominant field, like energy sector. So thank you very much, Ms. Amelia, for the very interesting presentations. And thank you so much for your participations. I think now is also we have reached about the end of the panel's discussions today. So I would like to send my thanks to all the 3 panelists for very insightful discussions that we have. So, and I do hope that for all the audience and participants here, you can like have some kind of very comprehensive overview of how the gender mainstreaming efforts has been progressed in on the global scale, or even on the regional scale and national scale. So thank you so much for your participations, and I would like to give back the floor to Ryan, the MC.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Jiang. And of course, a huge thank you goes out once again to all the beloved panelists, Ms. Parimita, Ms. Sanahan, as well as Director Amelia. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. I'm pretty sure that everyone present here today has at least learned something from the discussion that was held earlier. Well, now let's move on to the most anticipated section for today's event, and that is the launching presentation of the ASEAN Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap. Now, we have been waiting for this session for quite a while throughout this entire afternoon, and I would like to invite Ms. Amira Bilkis to lead us for this event here today. Ms. Amira, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay. Can you hear me clearly, Ryan?
Yes, there was an echo earlier, but I think it's gone now, so it's all good.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's launching event. We are very elated to have you here, everyone. And I saw that our panel before. Thank you so much, all speakers, Dr. Paramita, Ms. Trisana, and that Ms. Amelia as well, for coming and then giving some insights on the rationale of the importance of RE and gender. And right now, as per our discussions before, now I would like to have briefly actually introduce you to what we've been doing for the past months, and then which is
I'm sorry, Ms. Amira, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
You're back. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, allow me to just repeat actually what is being talked about before. So apologize for the technical errors. But I'm here to briefly thank all of the speakers that has come today on today's event, as well as trying to inform you about what is actually being developed for the past months, along with our Empower project and UNEP regarding to the ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap. So this roadmap is noting several things. Maybe you can actually slide next. Background in terms of the energy blueprint that we have, which is the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperations, which entering its phase 2, 2021 until 2020.
I'm sorry, Ms. Amira, we can't hear you again.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Crystal.
Yeah. Apologize for the technical errors. Yes, can you hear me now, Ryan?
Yeah, all right, there are no more echoes and you are clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, apologies for the technical errors. Just to continue to where I left off. So basically the 39th ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting last year, as well as the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation Phase 2, 2021 to 2025, mandated several action plans in which one of it is to conduct in-depth analysis to increase renewable energy deployment. And in order to have an explore the untapped, to explore further, we also would like to explore other things that is based on the joint declarations on energy security and energy transitions under the inclusive and just energy transitions that we have. Can you click next? So looking at the status quo right now, ASEAN currently have an regional target. We're actually set and discussed before by Dr. Nuki that we have the 23% of total primary energy supply and 35% of installed capacity power capacity by 2025 as part of the API program areas. And looking at the actual and projection data that we have in terms of renewable energy supply, we still have a huge gaps that, and despite the rising trends of renewable, it is still lacking in order to achieve the aspirational target. While the question remains is on what kind of efforts that is needed to accelerate the RE deployment. And based on the UNEP studies, one of which that also serve as a guidance is on its gender integrations in renewable energy policies document that it says integrating gender into renewable energy policy will embrace and bridge challenges on unlocking women's potential to a more effective energy activities and could make good economic sense. And as I mentioned before as well, that in ASEAN has already established several policy bases to encourage women's role in all sustainable development as in general, in which one of which is the ASEAN declarations on the gender responsive implementations of the ASEAN Community Visions 2025, and then the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework as well. And therefore, looking at that framework available, we need to have a more applicable and then more practical roadmap or pathway that could actually be implemented. Next. And looking at, in order to understand and build the pathway, understanding challenges and opportunities would actually be imperative at this sense. And during its development, and after we conducted a literature review, several workshops, FGDs, and country self-assessment, we also identified, as per these metrics, we divided 6 different areas that needs improvement in order for us to have a more gender mainstreaming efforts in ASEAN region. There are 6 of them, which is first, data on gender in renewable energy sector. Second, gender awareness in general and in renewable energy sector in particular. Third is jobs. And then 4th will be educational, social, and cultural norms. The 4th is the nature of renewable energy field work. And the last would be the access to finance. We find that these challenges actually also have another opportunities that we can actually explore. And we can see that one of the core issues were found would be the lack of data availability on gender in energy sectors, specifically for renewable energy as an emerging trends recently, actually has ripple effects to other challenges. For example, if we have less data available, we could not actually quantify and monitor what is the numbers in terms of women's in STEM education, and then limited what kind of skills that we need to equip those these women that would actually be part of the renewable energy projects, for example. But at the same time, some opportunities could actually thrive, for example, by attracting international finance or investment for renewable energy more, as a lot of donors already putting women or at least gender aspect in their requirements. Next. And then looking at the roadmap development that we have, so looking at first, we want to accelerate the RE deployment, but at the same time, we want it to be inclusive and just energy transitions. Therefore, what is actually come up is a gender responsive renewable energy policy. So not only recognizing or not only being sensitive about gender, but also mainstreaming and weaving women's role in the renewable energy sectors. And it actually starts in the policy level. And what is actually being done here, we wanted to just kickstart that by putting roadmap development, in which we aim to see potential benefits of the 9 that is written. That is, the first one is increasing responsiveness of RE needs, accelerate the growth of RE capacity, because there is a boosters in RE investment, and at the same time, having women on board in renewable energy business would actually improve business performance, and then boost innovations, reduce labor shortage, and then increases community buy-in, especially for rural areas and in community level. And then at the same time, catalyzing equal access of women. Next. And what we have here in the roadmap, we put 4 different phases that we are trying to put we are looking at around 5 to 6 years or even beyond process. It wouldn't actually be a short-term one, because this is actually something that needs to be done in the longer term as well. So looking at the 4th phase that we have here, we are trying to differentiate that first, what we need to do is raising awareness, but at the same time improving the database on gender in RE, so that we can actually have more reliable sources, informations to actually put a more effective and efficient project plans in order to weave there and put enabling environments there. And second is a gender integrations in policy design, by trying to put taking into considerations in the policy design regarding to gender. And then phase 3 would actually be monitoring and evaluation framework development. We take notes as well that it needs to have impact analysis as well. I would actually explain that later on in the next slide. And the latest, or the last phase would actually be policy implementation and oversight. But in the end of the day, this roadmap were expected to be all the actions and milestones that is written in the roadmap were actually would be put as an RE assessment meeting agenda for the time being. And then we are looking at the sustainable implementations of this roadmap through by building a working group specifically. Next. So as you can see on the details of the roadmap itself, as per phase, there are several milestone or action plans that we are putting. So for example, here, one of the things that is very basic that we have is a gender in renewable energy database, by mandating the ASEAN RE Information and Training Center to also take into considerations the renewable energy database, to add gender in their renewable energy database. And also at the same time, as you can see on the second one, would be the gender responsive renewable energy policy, by putting the ASEAN RE long-term roadmap in a sense, and to serve as a guidance. This roadmap would serve as a guidance for the long-term roadmap that we are still planning. And then we also have here developing key indicators, as well as updating them and trying to evaluate them periodically. And then the last but not least would be the implementation itself and review process, that we can actually see a policy impact analysis and improve the policy to create more positive impacts that we can see from all indicators. And therefore further projects and further discussion would actually be needed. And last but not least, actually the plan to establish the RE and Gender Working Group as a platform to coordinate the way forward of this roadmap, and to continuously share the current national implementations in the ASEAN member states. Next. And as you can see, there are some targets and outcomes as well as per phase. So in the phase 1, we are looking at a more high quality database, increasing rates of women in STEM educations. And then we're also looking at the increasing number of subjects, energy or even RE sectors at the university level. And at the phase 2, we are looking at the targets and outcomes, for example, in the diversifications of renewable energy types that is being developed and operated by women. Therefore, it is imperative to have an enabling environment, so as, for example, the access to finance. And then we are looking also at the targets, for example, a measurable and valid data of women in STEMs, educations to be increased, education, as well as employment rate. And then the phase 4 would actually be seeing an effective gender responsive policy that needs to be listed down as a more quantified measures. Next. And this is actually the suggested ASEAN working group to talk and discuss, to have it. We are trying to put more stakeholders, but the main stakeholders would actually be the gender renewable experts that the ASEAN should have, and then the policy makers, as well as a dedicated dialogue platform. So in this case, it's actually the RESSN meeting. And then we also would like to engage other stakeholders that is very relevant to the discussion, which is local communities, renewable energy companies, and the startup, and then universities as one of the stakeholders to represent education sectors, and then regional and international societies or institutions. Next. And then in order to go far further, there are some key strategies and the way forward in order to implement the roadmap. There are 6 things that we need to highlight. The first one, definitely, the inclusion of gender aspects on the upcoming ASEAN RE long-term roadmap, as it is very one of the longer term plan that ASEAN would have, especially in the renewable energy sector. And then second is by initiating discussion among the ASEAN member states, ASEAN Secretariat and ASEAN Centre for Energy to kickstart this initiative. And then the third would be setting up renewable energy and gender policy development toolkit in order to have a more thorough data and first-hand information. So having a self-assessment, trying to get best practices like benchmarking studies as well would actually be relevant to this one. And then for the fourth would be approaching the key institutions to support this initiative. Before, Dr. Paramita has mentioned about Energia and or even some others NGOs led project regarding to these gender mainstreaming efforts. It would be great to have discussions with them in order to understand further from the bottom-up approach. And then the fifth would be identifying ministries and departments that can be part of this initiative, understanding which focal points that would actually have hold of this duty. And then the sixth or the last is identifying existing national academic institutions that offer energy or renewable energy related programs in order to have a more exposure, especially for students right now, women students that is now working or studying in STEMs or even low economic other sectors or majors that could actually have contributions to the accelerating of RE deployment. Next. And I think it's the end of my presentation. So I'm to briefly introduce you to what is actually the ASEAN RE Gender Roadmap. And then I think if you have any questions or anything, you can actually write down in the Q&A. And then if you want to further read, this one would actually be accessible on our website. I think Ryan could actually promote that later on after this session. Thank you so much, and I'll give it back to Ryan. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Amira, for your very generous insight into the ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap. I think that certainly does represent a huge effort and a milestone to pave the way towards a more inclusive and diverse future in the development of renewable energy technology, especially here in the ASEAN region. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like a recap of what was actually presented on screen earlier, and you would like to have a recap of what was discussed today, the policy brief, as highlighted by Ms. Amira earlier, is available on the ASEAN Centre for Energy's website. So we can actually access the ASEAN Centre for Energy's website under publications to actually view the ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap that is available already. And if you would like to rewatch the discussion from today's session, don't worry, because the recording for today's Zoom session would also be made available very, very soon on the ASEAN Centre for Energy's YouTube platform, which I think will be shared on screen in just a little bit. Yeah, here we go. If you look on the screen here, the policy brief is actually available on this website, www.aseanenergy.org/ASEAN RE-Gender Roadmap. And if you'd like a more detailed look and a more detailed recap of what was presented by Ms. Amir earlier, be sure to check out that link. The next slide, please. Also, if you would like to access more publications or the latest publications from the ASEAN Centre for Energy, feel free to actually use the scanner on your mobile phone, or you can just simply access this link that is being shown on screen right now to have a look at all the latest publications that have been published on the ASEAN Centre for Energy's website. Also, do feel free to follow all of the ASEAN Centre for Energy social media platforms. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and most importantly, like what I mentioned earlier, the YouTube channel for ASEAN Centre for Energy, where the recording for today's Zoom session will be posted on very, very shortly. So do drop a like and subscribe to the ASEAN Centre for Energy's YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more exciting programs and collaborations that the ASEAN Centre for Energy will be bringing out in the coming months ahead. So one more time, if you would like to know the latest publications that are being developed at the moment, feel free to scan the QR code or actually copy this link that is being shown on screen right now. I did notice that there were a couple of questions in the chat asking about where can I access this publication that was actually being talked about. Well, here it is. You can access it by simply scanning the QR code that is being shown on screen right now. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I think this brings us to the end for today's session. I, on behalf of the ASEAN Centre for Energy, would like to sincerely thank everyone here for your time this Wednesday afternoon. And until then, my name is Ryan. Goodbye and have a blessed week. Thank you.